Over the years, video games have actually become pretty good at writing meaningful relationships between characters, but they've also proven to be an effective medium for creating set pieces that have the ability to affect people emotionally and really tug at the heartstrings. This has only become more pronounced through the additions of motion capture and voice acting, but even older games were able to have an impact on people through their deep and complicated narratives, despite only being able to use text boxes and basic animations. Over the years, the Final Fantasy franchise has seen its fair share of these moments. I mean, who could forget scenes like Cloud's rather personal session with Mucky in the Honeybee Inn, or even his date with Barrett later on in the Gold Saucer? Then there's the wedding in Final Fantasy IX between Vivi and Quina. Oh, and pretty much every single scene that Prompto shares with the Chocobo in Final Fantasy XV. Classics, right? Lest we forget that King, that old romantic from Final Fantasy Type 0, is also born on Valentine's Day. But on a more serious note, with everything going rather crazy for Valentine's Day, we thought it would be the perfect time to take a trip down memory lane and remind ourselves of specific moments throughout the Final Fantasy franchise when things genuinely did just get rather mushy, to the point where there potentially may have been some tissues needed to wipe away some hypothetical tears. So, my name is Lauren, and here are 7 times Final Fantasy was just hopelessly romantic, starting with Beatrix and Steiner, A Warrior's Love. Okay, so the first one on our list is a bit more subtle than some of the others that will follow, but that doesn't make it any less romantic. Throughout Final Fantasy IX, we got to see something brewing between Beatrix, the stoic, calm Alexandrian general, and Aldebert Steiner, the narrow-minded and judgmental captain of the Knights of Pluto. Although initially they had nothing but contempt and envy for each other, as they were forced to work together, they were able to look past their differences and saw something much deeper inside. This all culminated in an epic scene during the battle at Alexandria, where the two of them fight side by side and Steiner almost declared his love. But before that, the two of them shared a romantic moment at the front of the Alexandrian palace through mere happenstance. To summarize, Aiko was looking to declare her feelings for Zidane and asked Dr. Tot to write her a letter. However, on her way to give it to Zidane, she is accidentally charged out of the way by Baku and drops the letter. As she's left in a rather compromising position following the exchange, she requests that Baku deliver the letter to Zidane instead, which he tries to do, but he gets into an argument with Steiner and drops the letter again. Beatrix then approaches the scene. She sees Steiner leave and then sees the letter that Baku dropped. Then after that, she reads the letter and assumes that Steiner wrote it. Even still, she intends to turn up at the allotted time. Later that evening, Aiko arrives expecting to see Zidane, but Blank shows up instead, with Marcus, so she hides. Marcus thought the letter was for him, but quickly realizes it wasn't, and when they hear someone coming, they also hide. That someone just happened to be Steiner on patrol, who then picks up the letter from when Blank dropped it. Just at the same time, Beatrix turns up, leading them both to believe the other had written the letter. The tension was just so unreal, Aiko, Marcus, and Blank all wanting to get as close as possible, but just before it could get serious, it was interrupted by Baku sneezing, and the moment was lost. But that doesn't make the magic any less real, and by the end of the game, the two of them got to make their feelings much more public. Tifa and Cloud under the Highwind. Romance within the universe of Final Fantasy VII is a rather prickly subject, and the one thing we aren't going to do here is wage a debate as to whether Tifa belongs with Cloud or Aerith belongs with Zack. Instead, we're going to focus on a particular scene that happens towards the end of the game, as Cloud and Tifa find themselves alone on the eve of their most important moment, their descent into the northern crater to confront Sephiroth. Now, there are 2 versions of the scene, and which one you get is dependent on how high you raise Cloud's affection score with Tifa. But in both iterations of the scene, you get to see just how much Tifa cares about Cloud. After everyone has departed to visit their friends and loved ones, the two of them ponder whether they will actually return to help fight against Sephiroth. But Tifa lets Cloud know that it doesn't matter if nobody else returns, because as long as they're together, she won't give up. Cloud is stunned by this statement. Tifa, though, clearly isn't finished, as she reveals that when they were in the livestream together, she felt as though she heard Cloud calling her name, and from the fact that she's crying, you can tell that even if it isn't true, she wanted it to be. Perhaps she even needed it to be. If you have higher affection, Cloud then says there are loads of things he wants to tell Tifa, but that he doesn't know how. To which she simply replies, "Words aren't the only thing that tell people what you're thinking." Now, irrespective of whether anything does indeed happen afterwards, I think the conclusion of this sequence, which happens the next morning, is just too adorable. After a night of cuddling, Cloud attempts to wake Tifa, but she simply says, "This day will never come again, so let me have this moment," and she goes back to sleep on Cloud's shoulder. Laguna and Raine's engagement. Although we don't get to see too much of the relationship that Laguna and Raine had together in Final Fantasy VIII, during the ending sequence we got to see a rather magical scene, which becomes all the more poignant if you're up to speed on everything that happens to the married couple after they tie the knot. Having been wounded in the Sorceress War, Laguna found himself in a small village of Windhill, and he was nursed back to health by Raine. Initially wanting to repay her for her kindness, he stayed in the village protecting it from monsters, even if the residents weren't exactly too thrilled. Either way, Laguna's reason for staying soon changed as the pair started to develop feelings for one another, and on one moonlit night, Laguna proposed to Raine, to which she said yes. Soon after though, following Alone's kidnapping, Laguna left to try and bring her back, but this action would mean he would never see Raine again. It therefore makes the scene in the ending sequence of Final Fantasy VIII rather touching as Laguna returned to the spot where he proposed. Snow and Serah's engagement. Yes, we are sticking to the engagement theme for the next scene on our list, although the circumstances surrounding it are slightly different this time around. That doesn't make it any less romantic, though. Following the revelation that she had been branded a pulseless sea, Serah tries to break up with Snow. She wanted to try and save him from the pain and anguish that would follow, as she knew that there would be widespread panic and anyone associated with her would be punished. In response, Snow vowed to stand by her and help, regardless of what may happen to him. And a few days later, while they were out shopping for Lightning's birthday present, he snuck away to purchase an engagement necklace. He wanted to show Serah how committed he was to standing by her, and the following day, during the annual Bodum firework display, Snow lost his bravado. With a shaking voice, he proposed to Serah, and she said yes. The two then rode high on Snow's bike to watch the fireworks up close, to make this rather romantic scene complete, even if there was an uncomfortable incident with a firework. Zidane and Garnet reunite. Our next scene is extremely charged with emotion as it sees Zidane and Queen Garnet reunited at the end of Final Fantasy IX in rather dramatic circumstances. Following the defeat of Necron, Zidane chose to leave the group in order to try and save Kuja. The group were frustrated by his decision, but they begrudgingly accepted it, and Garnet made Zidane promise that he would return to her. But after time passed without hearing a word, they started to believe that Zidane had perished, and Garnet was forced to return to Alexandria to rule alone. That was until the group reunite as a part of a celebration where the Tantalus group are also due to perform their classic play, I Want to Be Your Canary. Before the play starts, we see a sequence with Garnet reminiscing that things just won't be the same and that she needs to move on, as Zidane had taught her. But as the play reaches its climax, Marcus, the lead character, throws off his cloak to reveal himself as none other than Zidane! Garnet then rushes down to the stage, dropping her crystal necklace along the way, and throws herself at Zidane, beats him for disappearing for so long, before then embracing fully. It can only be chalked off as the perfect fairy tale ending to a game that serves as a tribute to those that came before. Renoa and Squall talk in the Ragnarok. This scene introduced something that would become a hallmark for games that would follow, and it helped to add a whole new dimension to how our emotions would be played with, and that, my friends, was the vocal track. After a rather intense sequence which saw Rinoa go rogue due to possession, only to then be abandoned in space with limited oxygen, Squall launches a daring mission to try and rescue her, but all hope seemed lost until they stumble upon a random spaceship drifting around. Once they manage to clear away the rather annoying hosts, Squall then prepares to head back to surface, but Rinoa has other plans. Squall motions numerous times for Rinoa to sit in the seat next to him and strap herself in for safety, but she instead decides to plop herself right down on his lap. He was initially confused by these actions, and kept offering practical answers to Rinoa's questions about his feelings until she left. But it's what follows that shows the true romance within the scene. After a brief radio communication, Squall realizes that Rinoa is a sorceress, and that she's scared and needs comforting. Acting on instinct, He then left the safety of his own seat and knelt down before her, taking her hand before pulling her into his arms. When combined with the soothing vocals from Fei Wong and the now famous Eyes on Me, it all combines to create an extremely well-crafted and powerful scene. Yuna and Titus kiss in Macalania. Last on our list is perhaps the most iconic, the kiss that takes place between Yuna and Titus in the lake at Macalania. It comes after a pivotal moment in the story, as Titus revealed to Yuna that he has learnt the truth of the final summoning, and that he's sorry for constantly talking about what they do after she defeated Sin. Titus then desperately attempted to convince Yuna to abandon her pilgrimage, and for a moment, she considered it, if only because everyone would be surprised. They talked about everything they'd do together, but eventually, Yuna broke down in tears because she knew that ultimately she just couldn't quit. With the gorgeous Sutekirane then kicking into gear, Titus kissed Yuna, and the pair finally realized their feelings for each other under the rather gorgeous moonlight. It created a scene where all of the elements just aligned perfectly, and it's led to it becoming a rather quintessential romantic moment within Final Fantasy. And in the scene that followed, Yuna then requests that Titus stay with her until the end, cementing their intertwining fates, melting our hearts, and helping the scene to achieve maximum no. Alright guys, so those are my picks for the 7 times that Final Fantasy was just hopelessly romantic. How do you feel about them? Are there any that you feel I've missed out? As always, let us know in the comments below, and if you enjoyed this video, please hit that like button and subscribe to our channel. Also, if you'd like to become a Patreon supporter and help this channel grow, please head over to our Patreon at patreon.com/ffunion. View our mighty wall of supporters before you. If you pledge even the lowest tier, you get your name featured here alongside these legendary souls and get access to our awesome giveaways. Anyway, that's enough for me now. This is Lauren signing out. I'll see you next time for more Final Fantasy videos.